This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.
You built your product, you launched your business, you saw success, money in the bank, a growing team, happy client. But now you feel like you're drowning. I'm here to help you get your head above water. I'm Lauren Goldstein. My clients call me the Business Doctor. Together, we'll diagnose the root cause of your business worries, whether it's your people, your process, or your product. We'll clarify your business needs so you can scale without the burnout. And then we will simplify it all so your business can do what it's designed to do, make a profit and an impact. Welcome to the Biz Doctor podcast.
Welcome back. In today's episode, I want to talk about something that's been coming up in an alarming number of conversations I've been having with fellow business owners. Feeling like a failure, or what I like to call business dysmorphia. It's that sneaky little thought that despite what people see on the outside, you feel like a fraud and a failure on the inside. The outside and the inside don't match. By all accounts, the boxes are checked: profitable business that makes a difference, a great team, etc., etc. But on the inside, all you see is the game tape of the game you are currently losing on repeat. Personally, I think that social media and pay-to-play awards are most likely to blame. It's really hard to compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, especially when we don't actually know what their behind the scenes really is. Generally, the only thing that comes out of that game is feeling like a fraud, imposter, or the topic of today's podcast, a failure. So today, I'd like to talk about a few tools I've learned over the years to deal with the green-eyed monster of failure. First, let's reframe failure, shall we? Webster defines it as a lack of success or an unsuccessful person, enterprise, or thing. But I don't actually like that definition. Do you? To me, and what I help my clients see, is that quote-unquote failure is simply feedback. See, the sneaky thing that they don't tell you about entrepreneurship is that it is risky AF and comes with a whole lot of falling flat on your face, or as I like to say, failing forward. Or as comedian Christopher Titus is fond of saying, I don't fail. I succeed at finding what doesn't work. Heck, even Edison said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Think of it this way. How do you find out if something works or not? You test it out, right? Let me give you a great example that applies well to business. When you're building a new house, you put in the electrical and the plumbing first. But what do you do before you go and start putting up all the drywall, floors, etc.? You turn on the water and the electric to see what is or isn't working. Now, why do you do that? Because being an ostrich and praying that everything is good without testing it is just a recipe for disaster. And the cost of trying to fix something after you've already put in the walls, the floors, etc. is pretty high. And honestly, that's how boiling water ended up in the toilet and under the Tuscan sun. They didn't test it out before they closed up the wall. I digress, but the point I'm trying to drive home is that without data, aka feedback, aka failure, from movement, we can't adjust our course. It'd be like an airplane staying on the ground because the pilot was afraid that the navigation system might fail. Sure, it might, but you're never going to know if you don't get up in the air, and you're certainly never going to get to your destination if you're too afraid to fly. We only learn by doing and being courageous enough to risk. So now that we've redefined quote-unquote failure, how do we pull out of the failure spiral if you find yourself there? Well, here are a few of my favorite tools. First, build evidence to the contrary. I find that often us business owners have a hard time celebrating the little wins. We get so focused on this quote-unquote seven-figure business wins that we forget that it's the little wins that actually make the big wins possible. So here's my tip for you. Create some sort of win repository. Some of my clients do it in a Google Doc, some keep it old school in a journal, but hands down my favorite is a fun jar that you jot down the win, fold it up, and save it for a rainy day. That way, when you're having a failure-cloaked day, you can walk over and read a win to remind yourself that this too shall pass. P.S. This is actually what I do. Rainy day notes are my favorite. So why do I love this so much? Well, for one, it's a great reminder of all the good you've done. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I tend to dwell on what isn't working versus what is, which is a whole nother sister rabbit hole of failure. So I won't go into that now. But second, it's almost like an anthology of the success and how far you've come. The reason this is important is that much like with weight loss, because we see our business every day in the mirror, it's hard to see how much progress we've made because we're numb to it. And this little baby progress, we can't see when we're looking at it every single day. Plus, who doesn't love a good rainy day note to remind you of just how awesome you are? The second tool that I've found to be most effective antidote to failure is this. When in doubt, focus out. When you're in the throes of feeling like a failure, get out of your business and go support someone else. I know this might seem counterintuitive, especially when you think things aren't working or that you're just in a big dumpster fire of failure. But trust me, it works. Could be as simple as a coffee chat with someone who's going through a tough time that you can support. Could be donating your time to a local organization, volunteering at an event that has nothing to do with your business, or it might be just going for a walk by yourself. Or my personal favorite, going and jumping in mud puddles to shake up the energy. Now, any of those options have a magical way of shaking out the cobwebs of failure and reminding you of your greatness. Because believe me, sometimes a step back is all you need. The other side of the same coin is practicing gratitude. Sometimes when we're feeling like a failure, it's because we've lost sight of not only how far we've come, but of all we have. So when in doubt, take a moment to really get clear and grateful for what you have. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but the more grateful you are, the more this magical world will give you to feel grateful for. Last but not least, phone a friend. If you are really in the thick of it, call someone who can remind you of your greatness, even when you can't see it. Heck, if you need a friend to remind you how amazing you are, reach out to me. Us entrepreneurs gotta stick together so we can change the world. And the last thing that I'm gonna leave you with is just remember, as cliche as it sounds, without rain, we wouldn't have rainbows or trees or flowers or anything like that because things grow in the rain. It gives us the amazing dichotomy of what we want versus what we don't want. So appreciate the times when you're feeling down or feeling like things aren't working so you know what to work on. And as always, remember, failure is not permanent. So this too shall pass. That's it for this week's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe so you get notified first when our next episode drops. I'd also love to hear from you and your biggest takeaways, so tag me or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein or LinkedIn or wherever you hang out on the interwebs. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
So which part of your business needs love and attention? You might be wondering that. Here are your next steps. Head to goldenkeypartnership.com or the show notes below to schedule your diagnostic deep dive. Thanks for listening to the Biz Doctor podcast. If you love the show, please share it with your colleagues or tag me on social media, especially LinkedIn. And subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Story Studio Network.